Nehemiah. Dear friends, today we are entering the 16th book of the Bible, Nehemiah. In the previous story, we looked at Ezra, who came to teach Moses' law to the exiles who returned and to encourage them to live according to it. Nehemiah also lived in the same time. Both of them served King Artaxerxes. Nehemiah was the king's cupbearer. In the 7th year of Artaxerxes, Ezra came to Jerusalem. About 13 years later, when Nehemiah was in the capital of Susa, Hanani his brother came with certain men from Judah. They told Nehemiah about the wall of Jerusalem being broken down and its gates still lying destroyed by fire. This distressed Nehemiah. He wept and fasted and prayed before God. God heard Nehemiah's prayer. God worked in the heart of Artaxerxes. When the king learnt of his desires, he gave him permission to go to Judah, and also sent letters to those who were supposed to help him. Both the king and the queen were in favor of this, and Nehemiah set out. The king sent with Nehemiah the officers of the army and horsemen. He came to the province beyond the river and gave the governor the king's letters. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah his Ammonite servant heard this, it displeased them greatly. The king sent Nehemiah as the governor of Judah. And Nehemiah, who reached Jerusalem, called together the priests, the nobles, the officials, and the rest who were to do the work, and discussed building the wall. They strengthened their hand for the good work. Though they had enemies who despised them, they went ahead with the work. And the people came forward and repaired the wall and its 12 gates, near where they were living. Sanballat and Tobiah, who at first thought that Israel will not be able to rebuild its walls, were enraged when they saw the work going forward, and they tried to discourage them. They said that what they are building, if a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone wall. But the people were not discouraged by their despising. They continued the work, and all the wall was joined together to half its height. Still, their enemies decided to fight against Jerusalem and cause confusion in it. When Nehemiah heard of this, he prayed to God and encouraged the people. From that day on, half the people worked on construction and half held weapons, and the leaders stood behind the whole house of Judah. Though they had to face a lot of challenges, the Lord was with them. In 52 days they repaired the wall and fixed its gates. Then he appointed gatekeepers, singers, and Levites. Thus, after the building of the temple under Zerubbabel and the building of Jerusalem's walls under Nehemiah were complete, and its gates were set in place, the people of Israel lived peacefully in their towns. And the people gathered as one man into the square before the water gate. And Ezra the scribe brought the book of the law of Moses before the assembly, and read from the book. And he explained it so that the people understood the reading. Then, according to the law of God, they observed the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days. And day by day, from the first day to the last day, he read from the book of the law of God. The people did this with great joy, and they made a firm covenant to the Lord, and the princes, Levites, and priests sealed it. And under the leadership of Nehemiah, the people decided they would bring to the Levites the tithes from their ground. And the Levites shall bring up the tithe of the tithes to the house of their God, to the chambers of the storehouse. They had prepared a room in the outer court to store the vessels of the house of God, the tithes, and other things they needed. And after about 12 years, Nehemiah went back to King Artaxerxes. At that time, Nehemiah had given his brother Hanani and the governor of the castle, Hananiah, charge over Jerusalem. In Nehemiah's absence, Israel forgot their law and the covenant they had made. The people stopped giving tithe to the Levites. So the Levites and singers who did the work had fled each to his field. Many of them took Gentile women as wives for their sons. High priest Eliashib's grandson became their enemy Sanballat's son-in-law. So Eliashib prepared one of the rooms of the temple, which was used for storage, for Tobiah. At this time, Nehemiah took permission from the king and returned to Jerusalem. Nehemiah was very angry and confronted the officials for forsaking the house of the Lord. He threw all the household furniture of Tobiah out of the chamber, and he cleansed the chambers and brought back there the vessels of the house of God, and the grain offering and the frankincense. Nehemiah saw the people doing business on Sabbath and allowing Gentiles as well, and people treading wine presses on Sabbath and bringing in heaps of grain and loading them on donkeys. And he confronted the nobles of Judah for profaning the Sabbath. And Nehemiah commanded that the doors be shut before the Sabbath, and that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. He also set guards. The children of those who married Gentile women could not even speak the language of Judah. And Nehemiah confronted them and cursed them, and beat some of them and pulled out their hair. And he also made them take an oath in the name of God that they would not do that again. And Nehemiah also chased off Eliashib, who sinned. Thus Nehemiah cleansed them from everything foreign, and he established everything in order. Nehemiah was greatly zealous and faithful in fulfilling what God wanted him to do. With this, we come to the end of the book of Nehemiah. In the next video, we will go into the next book. God bless you.